Welcome to Speechless. We're live from SPNN in St. Paul, Minnesota. Welcome to the show. We're about 3 blocks away from where approximately 260 kids this week were ripped apart from their mother's womb. And it's interesting to note, and I'm really glad this is happening, that in Pennsylvania, the Catholic priests have come out, admitted their sexual abuse, and of course it took a prosecutor going after them, and they had 300 priests do that. Now I was watching CNN, and they were just all over these priests, as they should be. You know, this is bad stuff. But what they do understand is the same type of thing is going on at Planned Parenthood. What's happening with Planned Parenthood? Many 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds are going in and getting abortions, and Planned Parenthood is covering up for the statutory rape or the incest or the rape that's going on. Of course, when you have guys like the movie mogul supporting Hillary Clinton, who's greatly involved in sexual abuse, you know, and promoting abortions himself. He probably paid for a number of them. They're covering up crimes, and Planned Parenthood is not reporting that. So CNN rightly being upset at the Catholic priests for abusing children should be the same way with Planned Parenthood. But at least I give them credit for being upset and being glad that these priests are caught and confessing, and hopefully some restorative measures can take place there. And that's Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is also a place where they hold their judges accountable. A number have been kicked off the Supreme Court, and they've impeached a number of judges. But that brings us to West Virginia, who just got rid of their Supreme Court. All the Supreme Court justices got impeached. Some are going to have trials, but two people resigned. And Dallas, if you're ready there, I think I have it titled West Virginia. I'm not positive, but just a slide there. I went on their webpage to look up who their justices were, and this is what came up. Not that one. So, oh, it won't play. Okay. Yeah, we're having technical problems here today. That's just part of the deal. But one said it was being suspended. The other two vacant, offices were vacant. And so that's 3 of them. 2 more are being impeached and have to go to trial, which the Senate will try. So the House impeached, and the Senate will try them. They need a 2/3 majority to convict in order to remove them from office. There's 34 seats in the Senate in West Virginia. There's 22 Republicans. So if all the Republicans vote in favor of impeachment, then it goes. Now the Democrats are complaining that this is a political witch hunt, but what you understand when you see the charges and what the Supreme Court justices were spending, $363,000 to renovate an office, including a $32,000 couch, which, you know, there's a lot more to this. There's a lot of details, a lot of facts, but the spending was the number one issue in the impropriety of the spending of the Supreme Court. That now, most of these Supreme Court justices started out being appointed. West Virginia went Republican, and now the Republicans are coming after these Democrat judges, as it's understood to be. And so the Democrats are crying foul that this is just a political witch hunt, yet they lay out some really good evidence of misbehavior by the West Virginia Supreme Court. It actually happens in other states. It needs to happen in Minnesota and in our courts here. Elections were last night. We're not going to go a whole lot into that, but it was interesting to watch the Ramsey County, the Secretary of State's website for the Maplewood and Roseville elections, because they came in with 100% of the precincts being reported in Maplewood, and they had certain winners. And then at 3 p.m., the numbers were the same, but they switched to different candidates. So something was going on, something was messed up at the Secretary of State's office. And actually one candidate that was shown as winning was now shown as losing, and the one that was losing got in. So who knows, but the same type of thing happened in Roseville, where the numbers weren't matching up to the proper people. So they got some explaining to do there, and we don't have enough time to figure out what was going on there in Maplewood and Roseville. Oh, the Russians, yeah, the Russians did it. So we also have Judge Sarah Backus out of Nevada, who went, and you just got to understand the disparity. There's a terrorist training camp where Muslims were training children to shoot up schools, okay? And a little child died. And the feds, or the state came in, whatever, they were in state court, I believe it was state court, yeah. And the judge let this guy out on $20,000 bail and ankle monitoring. Mind you, here in Minnesota, and they're setting $1 million bails for mothers who are trying to protect their children from abusive fathers for doing what the law allows and protecting them by removing them from the situation, and then letting the courts try to figure it out while the courts in turn punish, kick them out of their house within 2 hours notice, and set $1 million bail. But a terrorist training kids to kill people and shoot up schools, 20,000. That's just really some really bizarre stuff going on in our courts, and especially relating to Muslims here. Now, there's an event coming up that I'm sure not many people have heard of, and it's called the Super EID. And an EID is a Muslim term, but at the U.S. Bank Stadium, there's going to be about 50,000 Muslims coming together for a 2-day event, probably from all around the country here, who knows, but mostly Minnesotans. It's just not being, hardly anybody knows about it. It hasn't been in the press. Some people have been trying to cover it. I got notice of it. The point is here is that this is a group of people, and that their political beliefs are to destroy America. And what I'm concerned about is that U.S. Bank Stadium is going to be a mess. Now, it's really not a religious issue. It's an ideology issue that is against America. And because that is their religious beliefs. It's jihad, it's what would Muhammad do, and a one world government with one of the Muslim sects in power. And that's why they fight each other, because they're fighting over who's going to be in power. But the end goal is America no more. So it's a big event happening. Now, there's a board meeting by the Minnesota Athletic Faculties Association Athletic Authority, and that's Friday morning at 9 o'clock, and it's going to be at the Medtronic Club at the U.S. Bank Stadium. It's open to the public, and you need to go there. People are going to be speaking about, about having this and the effect of having that on Minnesota and on the population here and the taxpayer expense and stuff like that. So, this is a group of people that are stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from the state, and, kind of thing, who's funding this? How are they getting the money? These are poor people on welfare. Where's the money come to do this event? So there's a lot of questions to be asked. And yeah, I believe in freedom of association, I believe in peaceful assembly, but the goal of the Muslim faith is not peaceful. Only to Muslims, not to anybody else. So it's just got to be understood. Okay, and next week I'm going to go over the Ramsey County judicial elections, kind of some surprises there that have taken place. Didn't come out as I wished in a number of cases, but that's a big issue. Okay, I'm going to talk about Keith Ellison and the allegations against him. I think they should be taken seriously, okay? But they're also allegations. Now, if this was a one-time thing, fine. No, it's not fine, okay? You have to weigh each situation on its own, okay? So here, not only have two people, Karen Monahan, she came out with there's a video out there, okay? That's the threat, kind of that Omarosa, I got a tape, okay? But in 2005, Amy Alexander, a 19-year-old aide to Keith Ellison, also filed a police complaint against Keith Ellison for abuse, okay? And that was covered up. But now I'm hearing that there's actually a third person that is getting ready to come about Keith Ellison's abuse. But there's another person that's been abused that people know very well has been abused, but is not even talked about. Can you figure out who that is? Yeah, his wife, okay? She says, Keith's a perfectly great guy, this is not his behavior, he doesn't do these things, except cheat on you. You know, that's abuse, okay? And that goes to Keith's mindset and behavior. But again, these are allegations. Now, we know he's got all these parking tickets that he didn't pay for, and we know he had all these back taxes that he hadn't done. That's all been recorded. So there's a pattern here, and it's also a pattern that goes along with his Muslim faith, okay? Because it's all right to have more than one wife. Okay, it's all right not to pay your taxes to infidels, and it's all right not to pay your parking tickets to infidels. So he can justify that with his religious beliefs. But we got something here that's really different in these allegations of abuse in this one. A kid gets on Facebook, the son of the woman who's been abused, and says there's a video and I've seen the video. Okay. You got two things happening. One, there's an allegation of a crime. Mike Freeman needs to go, and that's the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, needs to go to a judge and get a warrant to get that video because there's an allegation of a crime, assault that took place. And the reason he needs to get it is for two reasons, because another crime may be taking place, and that crime is a false allegation against Keith Ellison. Okay, and that's just as bad as if it was a true allegation. Either one of them presents a crime, and that video will tell the truth, okay, or can possibly tell a large piece of the story. So my call is to Michael Freeman, and your call should be to Michael Freeman. Go get that video and make it public. A crime has been reported in the public. It's out there, it's public, it's a crime. Do your job, get the video. This is affecting who we choose as Attorney General for Minnesota. It's a big deal. So Michael Freeman, get it done, do what you need to do. Okay, so we hopefully it will work. We have a recording of how Keith Ellison behaves in public during a local debate for U.S. Representative last year, so let's hear that.
The congressman for a second. Right here in this studio, okay, the congressman told Al McFarland that the reason why he pays so much attention to foreign affairs is because he's on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Well, he's not. That was an outright lie. I mean,
All right.
it
I
was
was
what
on
it
the
was.
I was on the Foreign Affairs Committee.
But
and I'm
you
also on the House.
weren't. But you are not.
No, wait a minute.
We're going to
Again,
try to stick to the
know what?
deficit and the budget right
no,
now.
And I'm gonna, let me.
No, you want to talk about who's a liar? You're the liar.
Okay.
You lie all the time.
We
And
have a
I was on the
question
Foreign
from-
Affairs Committee. I was on the Foreign Affairs,
was,
and I'm
but
on
you told them that
and I'm
you
on the House,
are.
and I'm on the House Democratic Partnership Committee, which requires me to travel abroad to help emerging democracies. I have a lot of legislative basis to travel, and so there you go again, lying. You have no respect for the truth.
Okay.
Anything you say is
Okay,
suspect.
we can go.
Conversation starter. Now, the reason why I mentioned, going back to Congressman Ellison, the reason why I mentioned the fact that he said he was on the Foreign Affairs Committee and he wasn't is because we have to
was
understand.
on the Foreign Affairs Committee.
He said that
I'm not going to
is.
let you sit here and lie like that.
It's
you
on
lie,
my website.
You lie all the time. You're
It's
lying
on my
now.
website.
You are not to be believed.
Okay.
And you are, and it's amazing how you lie.
Okay. It's
You
on
ought to
my-
be ashamed of yourself, the
It's
liar
on
you
my
are.
website. Okay, that's what
Do
you
you
told
have
him.
any respect for the truth at all?
That's what you told him.
Do you have any respect for the truth
Okay.
at all?
Well, how about the fact
Stop
that
lying.
Did you say you were going to release your tax returns, and did you do it?
I'm not releasing nothing to you.
Okay, you
If-
said
no,
that
if-
you
if
were.
If the press wants my tax returns, they can have it. Oh, and by the way, I issue a disclosure all the time.
Okay,
you
so
can go
did
check
I.
it out. Well, we're not talking about you.
Okay.
You asked me if I was going to release my taxes.
You said
Not
you
to
were.
Not to you. I'm waiting for a reporter to ask me for it.
Okay,
I'm not dancing to any music you play.
You know what?
Congressman Ellison, with
Point out what I heard in Congressman Ellison's plan, what I've read is this: more taxes for everyone because you don't have enough rich people. More taxes, more food stamps, and some of the other arcane stuff he supports, like reparations for slavery. That's the Ellison plan for fixing the economy.
That's ridiculous.
all right, 1 minute response.
That's another bold-faced lie. And
Did you support that bill?
And it amazes me.
Did you support
that
that bill?
It amazes me that you could sit here with a straight face.
Did you support that bill?
It was a study bill. It wasn't about any
Why are
money.
we monkeying
No,
around
wait a
with
minute.
that?
I'm not going to deal with you because you're just silly, really. But the fact of
I
the
didn't
matter,
sign that bill.
here's the reality. Yeah, I
So
hope
what you
so.
said on our last debate was, oh, yeah, that's a job for the city council. Okay, so I understand this. By 2050, the United States will be a 51% minority, okay? And at that rate,
Come on.
we cannot afford to continue on with the largest achievement gap in education between black and white students right here in our country.
And what have
we
you done
also
about it?
have the
And what have
largest
you done
unemploy-
about it?
No,
I want to know what you have done about it. Because
Can I finish
veterans,
my answer?
because
Can I-
veterans
Can I finish my answer?
that I know have done a
yeah.
lot.
Well, let's talk about that $716 billion. And where does it come from? $39 billion comes from a pay cut to skilled nursing services. Now, I don't know anyone in the 5th Congressional District who thinks that nurses are living high on the hog. Okay, and
Nurses
one of-
endorse me, by the way.
and you know
They
what?
know all about
and
this
I'll
program.
Tell you, I'll tell you why they did. Because they believe
That
when
I'm
the
better than
time,
you.
When the
That's
time,
why.
when push comes to shove, you're gonna go in there and say, "Hey, we can't cut this money out from nurses. We got to give them that $39 billion up," which would make the cost of Obamacare even more. Because even the doc fix, every year we're going in there, there's a sustainable growth rate, and every year the doctors come in there, they throw you.
All right, well, there's the king of arguments there. So that's what he's willing to do publicly. You know, who knows what's behind the scenes. But, you know, the thing is, get the video out there. You know, Michael Freeman, go get it and put this to rest and then charge somebody with a crime. You know, obviously a son is very upset. And if he's bluffing, he needs to be held accountable, you know. And these elections, these things are too important to be messing with. And Tom Freeman, if you don't do, Michael Freeman, if you don't do something, you're messing with this election in a way you shouldn't be. Do it right now. It needs to get done. Okay, now, you know, we're going to talk on the show in a little bit about election integrity and election fraud or whatever, intimidation. But I got a video that popped up that was talking about a county. We'll see it in a little bit. Somebody tried to vote with political statements on their what they were wearing. Now, this just went through the U.S. Supreme Court. All the election judges were taught what the new law is. okay, that the old law was thrown out. You get to wear political statements when you go in and vote. Okay, you can't wear campaign material, but you get to wear political statements. So these people tried to go vote with some political statements. Let's watch the first video, number 1.
Hey guys, we're here at the wonderful Garrison Town Hall in Garrison, out in the middle of nowhere,
Minnesota.
We were asked to leave the polls to vote because Melanie had her headband on and we have political statements. So we're gonna go look up the statue.
She let me take a photo of the statue. I made her show me the law.
I crawled the Crow Wing County Sheriff's Office waiting for a deputy to call or show up. So we'll have more on this. We took a video from we were inside when they were trying to explain everything, but this isn't right. It's just censorship. This is just wrong.
All right, so there's the setup, okay? It's just interesting. You're gonna have to see more, but this is Melanie Llewellyn, and they quote this law that's unconstitutional. You can't wear this political. Part of it was right, but what's even worse, though, is they go, and you got to take it off. Well, no, that is not the law. The law does not say you have to take it off. The law says you have to take it off or we won't, and then we won't report you. If you keep it on, we have to report you if it is campaigning. If you're campaigning, okay? And using campaigning material. That's the law, okay? Political statements, you can have them all you want, okay? Supreme Court ruled that out. That's all they had, political statements, okay? So let's see the next video, see what how the election judges deal with it.
So I just wanted to know, can you show me the law? Because I
see this lady over here.
I know, but she's not the law. Oh, she's not the law?
She is our judge.
Okay.
Yeah, so 7 o'clock on this Thursday.
Yeah, all you have to do is, but we can't have anything that alludes to.
Can you show me where the law says I can't wear my headband?
So this is where, in the book here, it says it's anything to do with any kind of slogans, right, whatever.
Well, you're done.
So you just have to,
Can we go up here? Did you want to vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna vote. Prohibition of signs and campaign, this isn't a campaign material.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's
Because
not.
the slogan goes with a certain party.
And when you go see a Trump thing, you get your campaign slogan on your head, you paint that. Or
Any refusal will be recorded or referred to the appropriate authorities.
All right, first, they said she is the law. She is our judge. And the lady wanting to vote said, no, we want the law. We don't want the person that you think is interpreting law. And of course, they take her to a book that lays out what the head election judge of the state thinks the law is, okay? But that book was wrong, okay? And so that's the other thing you got to understand. When they're doing the training, they don't get into all this legal stuff, or they get into quite a bit of it. But in this case, when they show you the book, they just tell you, you can't do this. Well, if you look at the law, it says different. And so they're setting them up that she's got to take off this political statements, okay? And that she's wrong in saying that a political statement attaches to a party, therefore it's campaigning for what? You know, so it just doesn't matter, and it's a free speech issue, and the Supreme Court already dealt with all this. I mean, I was down there, I saw it, I heard it, read the order. You know, they should be able to wear that and not be harassed. But then other statements come out, which I think you'll find very interesting. So let's see the number 4. 4.
So I just wanted to show you this, that on June 11th, 2018, the Supreme Court overruled it 7-2. Minnesota's law, blah, blah, blah. And this is on routers. It throws out the ban on voter political apparel. So I think you guys are wrong.
What was the date on that? June 11th?
June 11th, 2018, U.S. Supreme Court states cannot impose a prohibition on apparel, t-shirts, buttons bearing political messages.
Is that Minnesota statute?
Yep.
It does say that.
So I could send you this link, or if you wanted.
Yeah, let me write this down because we all had to take online training.
Do you want me to email it or text message?
You can email it to me. I'm the clerk here for Garrison Township.
Okay.
They are aware of what the Supreme Court said.
Right, and that is true.
All right, there you heard it at the end. One of the judges goes, they are aware of the Supreme Court's ruling. And then the head one goes, yeah, right. You know, we are, you know. So it's just amazing that they take these people through all this hassle and they know they were wrong from the beginning. You know, so just utter harassment. And they had to take their apparel off in order for them to vote so that they wouldn't get their name sent in to the authorities to eventually face prosecution potentially. Of course, they wouldn't have, but they were under that threat. So, you know, people need to be educated. They need to know what the law is. You need to protect your rights. And they may have another lawsuit against the county and these people. Who knows? But we're going to talk about election fraud and election harassment. I have two guests, and I think I forgot to, oh, your names are up there. Good. Robert Marvin and Don Bumgarner. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
But you both are running for office, right?
Yep.
Robert, where are you running for?
I'm running for Minnesota House in District 40B, which is Brooklyn Center and part of Brooklyn Park.
Okay, and your a ticket, particular party?
Republican.
Republican endorsed?
Yep.
Okay. And Don?
I'm running for City Council.
For
Brooklyn Center.
Brooklyn Center?
Yep.
Okay. And there was no election, no primary here?
No, they
for
just had
either
4 people.
You're just going to the general?
Just right to the
Okay.
general.
So, well, I've ran for office too, for state rep, and so I just appreciate anybody who steps up to run for office. It's a big deal. It's very time consuming, and it's important for our constitutional republic to stay intact, to have people run for these offices. So thanks for doing that. But you've been both active in the political process, or what I call the governmental process. But you have some stories to tell about voting and irregularities that have taken place or that you both have seen. So Robert, why don't you start? You were at City Hall voting?
Yeah, in 2014, my son and I went into early vote. I think we were traveling. We were going to go on a trip or something like that. So we go in there on a Saturday, I believe, to do early voting. And when I went through the front door, I saw a car on the outside that had a lot of campaign signs for a candidate on the car.
Okay.
So I just assumed that the candidate was in there voting, or or like I was.
Were they within 100 feet of the?
They were immediately outside the door. They were within 10 feet of the door.
Oh, okay.
So immediately there.
Okay.
So I go in there, and then there's a person standing right next to the city clerk, coaching or talking to a person that she just brought in. And then I came up there to get my ballot, my son's ballot, and this person was standing right next to the glass door where the city clerk and the assistant city clerk hand out the ballots, and was looking at what was going on and listening to all the stuff and all the conversations. And then she ended up following us into the area where you fill out your ballots, and then she wound up involuntarily assisting us. She ended up looking.
So she just pushed herself in.
Well, she sat down right next to us and then started looking at our ballots, telling us who to vote for. Don't vote for that person because it's a Republican, that kind of
Serious?
thing. Yeah.
Well, that's against the law.
It's against the law, yeah.
Okay. And
I reported that to the city clerk 3 times during the time I was there. And each time she ended up saying that this was considered assisting.
Why do you need assisting though?
Yeah, I didn't need any assisting. I did not ask for assistance.
But you have to have a medical situation, a health situation.
Yep.
being blind
Yep.
or
Yep.
not being able, something that requires the assistance. There's a definition of
Yep.
what assisting means and what
But
it qualifies.
The city clerk was waving a piece of paper saying that she was told by the city attorney that this is considered assisting and this is legal. And that's just how it is. And I swear, anybody that I've ever talked to would say that this was looking at my ballot, which is supposed to be secret. It's supposed to be a
Right.
secret ballot.
Right.
You're not supposed to be coaching somebody in the polling location, telling them not to vote for this person because of whatever. That's electioneering. Also, this person was bringing in all these people to vote. She was coaching them. She was helping them to fill out their ballots, witnessing their ballots as they were filling them out, making sure they filled them all out correctly, coaching them probably like with me, and then putting them in the envelopes and walking them over to the city clerk to hand them in, all in the same time.
Wow. And the city clerk, do you know her name or?
It was Sharon Knudsen.
Sharon Knudsen.
She's since retired.
Oh, okay.
So there's a new city clerk. And for about 4 years now, we've been, the Charter Commission and so forth, been trying to get them to produce this document from the city attorney.
What document? Go ahead, Don.
Well, getting to the point Robert was talking about, this same gal, I was an election judge at Precinct 4 in the primary and also for the general election. The same gal was coming in, bringing people in all day long. They were same-day voter registering themselves on their own, needed no help. After they did that, she'd walk with them, point out on the ballot, tell them who to vote for, and then take them all the way through the final process of putting the ballot in the machine. I complained to the city clerk, Sharon Knudsen, about it, and she said that they can assist as many people as they want to. There's no restrictions on that. This gal had campaign.
Did she try to assist you?
No, I was the election judge.
You were the election judge. Okay.
I'm watching this stuff go on. This gal was driving a Toyota, a white Toyota, had campaign signs all over the car, had a large campaign sign inside of the car, parked right by the entrance to the polling place. It's not even, you're not even supposed to have, within 100 feet of a polling place, you're not supposed to have campaign signs, let alone, she's driving these people to the polling place, and statute 211B.11, transporting voters to the polling place. A person transporting a voter to or from the polling place may not ask, solicit, or any manner try to induce or persuade a voter in a primary or general election. In early voting and primary and general election, it's all the same.
So the transporter,
or for a ballot question. So
the transporter can't
Well,
just basically say, how you doing? I'm coming to pick you up, and you drop them off.
obviously, if you can't even do it on the way to the polling place when she's transporting them there, you can't do it in the polling place.
Right. Wow. Now, who was she recommending or telling people to vote for?
All the people she was bringing there. She was bringing people.
They're for Democrats.
But she was telling them to vote for Democrats.
Yeah.
She was bringing Democrats, and specifically for one candidate that was running for mayor, Mike Elliott.
Okay. So you went and talked to these, did you talk to the city attorney, or of course, Sharon Knudsen, she was going to fight you the whole way.
Well, I complained to the city clerk, who was the head election judge on the site, 3 times. And I actually did call the city attorney's office, and I called the city attorney for Brooklyn Park as well.
Okay.
So I got the runaround on that.
And they just said, too bad.
Well, Brooklyn Park said that it was illegal to do what we allege. And Brooklyn Center's city attorney, who was from the same law firm, Kennedy and Graven, the same law firm. And I got different stories from the 2 different city attorneys. And at the time, this is one of the claims, we don't even know who the city attorney was at the time who had written this alleged letter. So
they wouldn't tell you.
They still won't tell us who the city attorney was at the time, because they don't want to produce this letter. They don't want to talk about it. They've been covering it up
Yeah.
for 4 years.
And did you do a Data Practice Act thing on that to get the letter at all?
I and Robert are both on a charter commission.
Oh, okay.
Brooklyn Center Charter Commission, and the chairman of the Brooklyn Center Charter Commission is also the chairman of the SD40 DFL.
Okay.
And right after the election, when we were trying to get the information about the city attorney saying it was legal, there were a number of openings on the Charter Commission, which got filled with Democrats and Michael Elliott, the guy that was running for mayor. So while we're trying to get this information from the city clerk, city manager, city attorney, they were fighting us tooth and nail. Didn't want us to get any information. City clerk couldn't find anything. City manager couldn't find anything. Finally, the city attorney showed up, and he says he knew nothing about it.
So Sharon Knutson waving this letter around.
Piece of paper,
But
yeah.
a piece of paper,
Yeah.
and the city attorney says there was no such piece of paper.
No, I don't know. I don't know that they've ever actually denied that there was. They've never really refuted our claims. They just have been kind of like Schultz from Sergeant, from the
Right.
Hogan's
I know
Heroes.
nothing.
They want to. There's a whole series of these limiting the question down to very, very specific stuff, like the time frame and what we're asking for. This went through the Charter Commission. We were asking for the information, and they just tried to parse the question down to the point where the intersection of the question with reality would all of a sudden have nothing to produce. And they don't want to produce this
Sure.
this document.
Okay.
And they don't want to say that it didn't exist. They don't want to say it did exist. The city attorney won't say that he was the attorney at the time, because the previous city attorney, Charlie Fever, passed away, and the same law firm had the job the entire time. And at some point, a new attorney took over, and really the responsibilities should have been taken over by the new person.
Right.
And we know who the person is now.
Okay.
But they won't say who it was when this paper was.
Wow.
But after the general election, I called Sharon Knutson on the phone about this and explained all the different things that this gal was doing that was against statute. And she described this gal to a T, said that, this gal had parked right outside of City Hall all the time for early voting.
And so as an election judge, she just, or a city clerk, which is an election judge, she just admitted that she saw this took place,
yes,
and that she did nothing about it.
Yeah, and then I said, well, this is illegal. You can't do that. It's against statute. And she said, well, the city attorney told me it was legal. That was her comment to me, her final comment to me.
Yeah, so she's being told that she has to allow that. We don't know. That's another thing. We don't really know who's literally saying, if it's the city manager telling her, if it's the Gang of Three saying it, if it's the city attorney saying it. All we know is that that's what she's said to us.
And so what is your recourse in this situation? I mean, do you have to call the police? Do the police deal with this? I mean, how do you hold anybody accountable in this situation?
If the people that are supposed to be running the elections, the head election judge, the city clerk who's in charge of all the election judges in the city, won't do anything about it, there's not much we can do.
We can tell people about it, and we can complain about it and try to hold them accountable for it in the future, and try to stop it from happening in 2018, for example.
Okay, yeah.
So we don't want to. We want to have fair, honest elections. We don't want to have the city clerk intimidate or the city staff intimidating certain people, telling them that they can't allow certain things, and basically putting their thumb on the scale and favoring the Democrats, basically.
Right. A lot of intimidation going on there.
Yeah.
Well, it just doesn't matter if there's intimidation or not. They're just breaking the law.
Yep,
Just
that's
doing
right.
what they're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not getting the documents is straight out of the playbook of the FBI. It says, we'll request the documents. You got to produce them a certain amount of time, and the FBI just says, well, just sue us. We're not giving them. So there you got Judicial Watch going out and suing them, and then they're court ordered to give them, and then they give them heavily redacted, and then the Judicial Watch got to go back and get less redacted documents, you know. So it's a playbook issue. So government doesn't want to be held accountable and doesn't want the information out, and they'll play hardball instead of just giving it. But this isn't kind of the only thing going on in your area. So you got issues with campaign signs taking place. So what do you got?
We've been having issues with campaign signs for a long time, apparently. I first ran for office in 2010, and Don knows about what happened in 2010 with one of our House candidates' signs were stolen.
Oh, okay. So you want to tell us that story?
Well, Robert told it to me. I wasn't.
Oh.
But anyways, at one of the city commissioners' garages, numerous campaign signs of a Republican candidate,
Tim Olson,
were found, and the police were contacted, and the police just decided, well, it's okay. They don't have to do anything about it.
Well, what can they do unless you have, you know, or have some video or you saw somebody take them?
Well, they found him in the commissioner's garage.
It's his garage.
Yeah. And it was other commissioners that caught him, and the police caught him. And the basic claim was, well, those were Democrat lawns, and you can't have Republican signs in Democrat lawns.
I didn't know there were Democrat lawns.
And there was
specifically.
Yeah. So this city commissioner took it upon himself to go hunting for the Republican signs and stealing them and sticking them in his garage, and was unapologetic about it, apparently.
But he said he was taking them off because they were on Democratic yards?
Yep.
But were they?
There's no such thing as a Democratic yard.
Well, there was.
A person's got to get permission to put the sign on somebody's yard.
Yeah.
Well, we have that's another story.
But in this case,
yeah. Well, even this year now, we've had a number of our signs stolen this year.
But what you do when a sign is up and it's on a yard and you don't want it, you contact the person. That's why they got to have that disclaimer on there, so they can be contacted, and the person's candidate or representative's got to come out and take the yard sign out, not somebody else.
Yeah, this year now, I just noticed this Sunday, the Mayor Wilson signs were started popping up in all these prime corner lot locations. Monday, I went to place my sign in this one yard where I'd gotten permission about a week or so ago, and this gal came out and told me she wanted it up farther, where Wilson's sign was. And Wilson's sign actually wasn't far enough back from the regulations for the sign. And then she also said, we never gave him permission to put the sign up. She said, we came home from church and the sign's here. And I said, well, you can
take it down.
Take it down, yeah. And then another location that I got permission to put my sign up, but the guy didn't want it up until October.
Okay.
I drove by there, and Wilson's sign is in his yard. And a day later, I look, and the sign's leaning up against the house.
Okay, so the guy took it down.
The homeowner took it down, yeah. So evidently they do these kinds of things.
Right, yeah. I mean, this has
been going on for a while. There was widespread complaints of that in 2010.
Ever since campaign signs have been around, it's been going on, but you saw it heavily in Brooklyn Center. Now, who was the commissioner that had all these opponents' yard signs?
I think he's gone now, but we know his name. We
generally.
Yeah.
You don't want to say his name?
You could.
I don't know his name.
I know his name, but I usually don't try to pick on specific people. But you know.
But he's gone.
I think he's gone.
Well, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like show the video, Keith Ellison, or whoever's got the video of Keith Ellison.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, but he's no longer.
Because once you start picking on, I try to avoid calling him.
He's no longer a commissioner.
Everybody knows who he is. So.
Okay.
I don't.
No.
But is he a public official still?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. So if they're not in office and it's done and all that, but it's amazing to see how the authorities, the people that are supposed to uphold the law,
Selective enforcement.
selective enforcement.
Well,
I mean, I'm not a person that likes, nitpicking on everybody, but the thing is correct the situation. These things are correctable, and okay, let's not go out and fine them, but, if you keep doing this, then we're going to go after you. But we got you here, stop doing it, you're on record, now get the stuff back, why don't you give them some money,
We have a different police chief now than we had back then too. So.
I actually think that back then we've had 2 police chiefs since then.
Could be.
I believe, yeah.
Could be.
But like in 2010 when this person's lawn signs were stolen, he didn't even know where they were stolen from. So he had just a stack of lawn signs in this guy's garage. Some people number their signs, they know where their signs locations are, and stuff like that. So if people
keep
are
records, because you got to go pick them up.
Yeah, you have to pick them up. And if somebody's going out there systematically taking your signs and stealing them or cutting them down, then you're damaging somebody's freedom of speech.
Right.
And you're going after the person too that's lawn it is, saying that person can't speak with Republican signs because they're on Democrat lawns. And the claim back then was one of the city council members was running around having people sign these little contracts, and there was
a contract saying what?
Saying that this is a Democrat lawn, and that and nobody would sign those contracts. I asked the city. Don knows who that is too.
Wow.
I asked the city council member. If
current council.
Current one.
Well,
yeah.
who is it? I mean, if they're
Dan. Yeah.
Dan
Ryan.
Yeah.
Dan Ryan.
I asked them straight up. How many of these contracts can you produce? And nobody. He puts up hundreds of signs. He put up 350 signs. I'm like, well, you have a stack of 350 of these contracts, and basically nobody signed those contracts. But that was the basic claim, is they were signing these little contracts.
It's for Democrats only?
Democrats only.
Wow.
And what was the benefit of doing that? For the candidate? Or?
He's a good guy as far as knocking on doors and getting permission for lawn signs for himself. And you can knock on doors and ask for other people too if you want to. But it's harder though to ask for somebody else.
Yeah.
Because people don't like to have a lawn full of signs. So normally you knock on the door. Like with me, I'd knock on the door, ask for my sign, and then 2 years ago I'd ask for my wife's sign because she was running for office too. And that's pretty easy. People kind of understand the idea. Well, you're asking for your wife.
Yeah.
But if you're asking for 8 people.
Right. No, it's a different ballgame altogether.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, campaign signs is big. My producer had signs ripped off. Even had the video of the guys ripping it off, but you can't tell who it is. It needs a better video system. But people go out there and steal them. So, any newer stuff going on with campaign signs right now? Yours are getting stolen right now?
I think they've stopped. It's amazing once I started reporting it that they actually returned them.
Wait, what's that? You mean you had a yard sign up someplace?
And it was stolen. I've had several spots where the signs were stolen. And actually we've had quite a few spots where the signs were stolen.
And then
they bring them back.
Homeowner said they were stolen?
Well, we had one activist that was telling us about our signs and where they were. We had another sign.
You mean where they were as far as?
They were in a dumpster.
Where they were.
Yeah, where they
where
were.
they ended up.
But the thing was, the dumpster didn't exist at the time when they were stolen, and I got photos that show that there was no dumpster there.
She said that she drove by the place
every day,
so she noticed they were gone.
Yeah.
But
and
they were in the dumpster. Didn't she contact you again and let you know that they were in the dumpster?
Yeah, I recovered them.
So.
And then we had another spot where we had signs stolen, and then the next day they vandalized the sign that I replaced it with, and the sign that was stolen from the previous day was returned and nailed to a tree. There's another spot where we had a sign stolen while there was nobody there, and then one of my opponent's signs was placed in the spot, and then a few days later my sign was returned and actually erected right next to her sign, which is amazing, you know, especially when I knocked on the, we literally got videos and photos of the people along that particular route, 69, where they were vandalizing our signs. And
so word got out that you were watching,
paying attention,
knowing
and
what was gone and when.
I think they were told to bring them back.
Okay.
Which was surprising, because normally if people steal stuff, they don't bring it back.
No.
They don't put it,
Because you got a chance of getting caught again.
Well, you know, these
Getting caught
these signs are big,
Right.
you know, and it's amazing when they get put back up. She didn't do a very good job of sticking them back up. They were kind of put sort of sloppy. But
Sure.
I've left the sign the way it was put up because I think it's sort of a statement.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, the process of campaigning is something else, to say the least.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's just the beginning of it, though. I mean, you got all kinds of other stuff going on, so.
Yep.
What's going on with the parades? You've had issues with the parades?
We've had lots.
You want to talk about, what was it, 2014?
2014 would be good.
2014, I was driving down the parade route the day of the parade, and I noticed Dan Ryan and Councilman and Mayor Wilson's signs were all up and down the parade route, but nobody else's campaign signs were up anywhere. And wasn't this 47 days before the...
47 days before, yeah.
They're not supposed to be up until 46 days before the election.
Okay.
So everybody else assumed they couldn't put theirs up yet.
Oh.
And they kind of didn't give you very good information about when you could put them
Was
up.
it bad information they gave you? It really was 47 days?
Michael Elliott and I were both told that you couldn't put them up 47 days prior. And this was a strong implication that you couldn't stick them up. But there is a city rule that allows 60 days prior, and they let the city council people put them up. But we actually had our signs and everything.
So the city council can, but a state rep can't?
Wow. It's 60 days before an election, but that's any election, including the primary election.
Right.
So that's where they tried to confuse everybody on.
So Mike Elliott and me,
just by not giving you the whole information?
The 46-day deal is signs of any size, right? That's what
Okay.
So that's where they try to confuse everybody on the 46-day rule on that.
Yep.
So I went before the city council and tried to get them to change the wording to exactly match the state statute. They didn't want to do it.
So anyway, so 2 years later, we just carpet bombed that parade route with our lords. Then we have more stories on lawn
Now, we got
signs.
about 4 minutes left.
Okay.
So whatever you want to get in, you got to get
parade
in
on
here.
Well, and during the parade
this year,
it's on tape. The 2018 Earl Brown Days parade. Dan Ryan's going through the parade, and he has some of his supporters or whatever standing on the fire department driveway right by the street, displaying these big 2x4 his campaign signs. And you're not supposed to be able to do that on city property, and nobody else was doing it. And then also, Mayor Wilson went through the parade once, came back again, walking through the parade and throwing candy on the ground to the kids. And you're not supposed to be able to throw candy on the ground. That's one of the rules for the parade too. And then also, all the city staff, mayor and council members, et cetera, got the use of new vehicles and a driver, if I'm not mistaken, from Luther Automotive.
Okay.
And were you off? Was any
Well, it's
Republican?
definitely an
The Democrats get that stuff.
in-kind contribution.
Was
That
any-
has to be reported.
Yeah, it was any Republicans
No.
offered that?
Not reported.
we never got offered
I don't
any
know,
free
we-
cars.
Well, you didn't get offered, but
Free drivers.
for the parade.
For the parade,
Drivers
but
too, yeah.
they all were coming through in new cars, convertibles, and
So
with drivers
the candidates should have gotten it too.
Everybody.
well, yeah. I mean,
Not just the Democrats.
we weren't offered it, so. I mean,
Well-
Luther Automotive's a great dealership and, you know, great for the city and all that, but offer the Republicans the benefit too, if that's the way it's gonna be.
Were these all people in their prior elected? Or
They're
were
all
there
in-
some that weren't elected
No,
but
no.
were running?
They're incumbents.
Incumbents, the mayor and city council members,
Okay.
they're all Democrat.
And they're doing their campaign stuff from these cars, so.
Oh, they were campaigning from it. They weren't just there as elected officials. They were actually throwing out, okay. Well, they got to report it as an in-kind contribution of some sort. I don't know what the city rules are, but okay. We got about a minute left.
What else we got? Anything?
So you're fighting for election integrity.
Yep.
And trying to expose what's going on.
The,
You know, I think
election judges.
the one point there is, you know, when I showed that video of what Garrison County, city of Garrison, and the Supreme Court talked about this. You have some 20,000 election judges.
Yep.
Actually more than that, say 40,000 election judges, all saying they know the law and all can have a different interpretation of it. And that's the problem with the law, is
Yep.
that you get people in trouble.
I got a
one
big,
way or the other.
I got a big
Okay.
one on election
Got
judges.
11 seconds.
Robert turns in Republican election judges and
Oh, yeah.
As the secretary for the Republicans.
and
Yeah.
the city clerk never contacted him.
So there was
I-
ample.
I go to be an election judge last year. I'm the only Republican election judge there, 50% of the time, both in the primary and the general election. But
Okay.
they don't need any Republican election judges when they're supposed to have 50%
Right.
of each major party.
But there
two major
isn't, there
parties.
isn't in Brooklyn Park. That's not happening.
Brooklyn Center.
Brooklyn Center.
Okay. Hey, folks, appreciate you watching. We're out of time here. Remember, if you don't stand up for other people's liberties, who's going to stand up for yours? And good men don't do nothing. And guys, thanks for being good men, trying to stand up and
Yep.
provide integrity.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
That was.
And the wind takes the kite as the fire